Hey, what's going on? And welcome to this edition of Happy Hour NMOA. It's my favorite time of the week. I hope you all are just as excited to finally make it to the weekend. So if you're not familiar with what we do here, Happy Hour NMOA is all about art, culture, and spirits. And we kickstart this thing off with, of course, spirits. And then a little later, we're going to delve into some culture, and we're going to talk with our special guest for tonight, which is Aaron R. Tucker. He's going to be talking to us from his lens as a celebrity wardrobe stylist and costume designer about people of color in and around the fashion industry. But to kick this thing off, right, I want to jump into the cocktails. And I see everybody coming in, so I'm waving now at everybody as I go ahead and I pull in drinks with Danny's Danielle Perriman, who's going to join us to show us how. Let's see if I can pull her up. There she is. And I'm going to invite her. She can break down our cocktail for this month. And maybe it'll be something that placates to the other holiday, which we celebrate during the month of February. So I'm bringing her on. And if you are drinking tonight, because, of course, it's happy hour, I'm drinking. I have my cocktail ready to rock and roll.
Hey. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I don't know. I was having some issues getting on, but I'm happy to be here. Happy February.
Yes.
Got my red lip. I'm ready for, the festivities for today.
Oh, okay. So you ready.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can celebrate the red lip for a couple of reasons. I mean, we have Valentine's Day, but it's also Black History Month. And I don't know if we have any deltas out there, but for all my...
Me, hello.
What? I mean,
hello.
Right? So, again, we're going to be focused on our conversation as we be centered around celebrating not only, obviously, Valentine's Day, but more importantly, Black History Month. So we're going to be spotlighting that. Our cocktail, however, is going to get us in the mood, right?
Yes.
So,
we can do a little bit of everything. I'm definitely always, I celebrate Black History Month every month, all year long. But I think that it's something nice to do to get in the mood and, feeling good for the holidays, and also to do something nice for your partner. So this is a nice, little something you can put together. It's super easy to do. So, yeah.
Which I think we're still in the midst of a pandemic for all of those who still question that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic is still happening, right? And so you aren't able to go out and engage in a typical Valentine's Day like you would. So this cocktail that you're going to create tonight might help, as you said, set the mood for all romantic at home.
Yes, and that is what Drinks with Danny is all about. It's about making those delicious cocktails at home and making those cocktails that if you went out to a bar, you might spend $20, $30, but you're making it right here with ingredients that you can find right at the grocery store. So that's what this is all about.
I love it. So you know what? Let's not hold them up any longer. Let's just jump right into the cocktail. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up really quickly for those who may not know what this is all about. I'm going to pull up our monikers, but go for it. You got it. It's all you, Danny.
All right. I have my strawberries here. I have some raspberries there as well. And what we're going to do first before we actually get into making the drink is we're going to make a strawberry raspberry puree, which is something you can use for over top of your pancakes or waffles or yogurts or oatmeal. So it's not something that you're going to make one time and be like, all right, now what do I do with it? You can keep it in your fridge, and it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. So first, what we're going to do is, I have my little blender up here. You're just going to take some raspberries, a little handful. You're going to take your strawberries and make sure you get those stems off. Since I'm only making one drink here, I only need 3 strawberries, and that's probably more than enough. And I have about a tablespoon of sugar. Put that in there. And then you need something to loosen it up, and what better than our Tito's here. Hello, so you're going to add your Tito's. I'm going to do 2 ounces of that Tito's. Just gonna add that in there. And the really cool thing about this is once you blend it up, that Tito's is gonna be infused with the flavor of our strawberries and our raspberries, which is lovely for what I have for you guys today. So just gonna put this top on. We have our Tito's in there, strawberries, raspberries, and a little bit of sugar. Just gonna blend that up. And there we go. And this right here also is really good for the winter time, in the summertime, excuse me. If you want to freeze it and make like ice pops or slushies, that's all you need. Literally is some fruit, some sugar, and your alcohol, and you are good to go. If you do freeze it, make sure you add a little bit of water though, because alcohol doesn't freeze that well. So you're only going to get like a slushy type of. But that's for another day. We'll wait till the summertime for me to show you guys that. So you have your little puree, or I guess it's more of like it's a looser puree.
Yeah.
And then we have our glass here. Just gonna put a few of our raspberries at the bottom just to make it nice and cute. I also have some maraschino cherries. These are Luxardo cherries, which these are actual cherries. If you find a maraschino cherry that you go to the bar and you see like the really, really bright ones, those are actually made in a factory somewhere, and these are actually the cherries that you're gonna that you would get. And they put them in a very special syrup that is made in Italy, and they are I'm gonna show you guys what they look like. They look totally different than those maraschino cherries you would see at a bar, like a very, very, very dark.
You've brought this up once before about how amazing these cherries are over the typical ones we would see. So I'm gonna have to invest. I keep saying
they are very expensive. Yes, they're not as cheap as your regular maraschino cherry, but they are so worth it. They taste like little candies. They taste like little cherry candies. They're so good. And today I'm actually not using this cherry, so I can put it aside and eat it later. I just want some of that syrup because it's nice and sweet. It's heavy, and it's what we need for this drink here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pour a little bit at the bottom. Just gonna drizzle it in there. And you already have those raspberries. This drink right here is already looking very sexy. It's already making me just get into the mood, you know?
That's the vibe we want.
That's the vibe, right? So next thing we're gonna do is you're gonna fill up your glass just about halfway with that yummy puree that we made with the strawberries, the raspberries, and that vodka. And if you're feeling and you're in the mood and you wanna, do a little bit more, you're always welcome to adding more of that Tito's in there. If you want a little bit more, totally open to that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna top it off with some rosé, sparkling rosé.
Okay.
And this is another thing that you can go as expensive or as cheap as you want to. You can go and get like a rosé Moscato champagne type of thing, which is probably a little cheap, or Prosecco, a lot cheaper. But if you're doing this for your boo, your bae, you want to make sure you spend a few dollars, okay? So it's up to you, but I'm just saying, from me to you, spend a few dollars. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of this on top, just add a little bubbly. Woo. And this right here, guys, that's it. It's not hard to do. It's not something, but look, it looks so pretty. So you have different layers of our pink, different layers of those colors in there. And once you drink it, I'm going to add a little bit more on top because you know how it gets when it's a little bubbly.
You got to make sure you top it off.
You got to make sure you top it off. But once you sip it, you kind of, all those layers will come together and all that flavor. It's like you're getting a lot in one glass. You're getting a lot. And this is something you could sip on all night. Like I said before, this is something you can save and put over, if then you take out the alcohol, but you can put it over other foods and things like that. So it's not a total waste. It's super easy and it's delicious. So cheers.
I love it, and I'm a cheers to you as well. I like the fact that it's the color red. So I don't think we said the title of the cocktail, which is Love Potion. Am I correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, Love Potion, especially since it is in the spirit of Black History Month, and we shouted out our deltas, my deltas. This might be the perfect cocktail for your next gathering, right?
Right. Shout out to all the deltas out there. If you want to do a gathering, we can make this together.
I see a couple of them in the chat, so I'm waving at all my deltas that are in the chat.
Hello, sorors. I see y'all.
So with that, I love this cocktail. Simple, easy. A lot of our viewers are like, it's so quick. A lot of them are wanting or salivating after the cocktail that you just made. Low key, so am I. So I'm like, when this pandemic is over and we're able to do this happy hour live at the actual museum, We're going to have a good time, Danny. I'm looking forward to like sampling everything you make.
You know what? Every single month I say that. I'm like, you know what? I can't wait till I can see some people. I can make this with them. I kind of see it happening where once we finally get together, everyone's gonna be like, "Can you make this? Can you make that?" I got y'all. I got y'all on all the drinks I've ever made here, or anything that's been on my page, anything like that. So I look forward to it. I cannot wait.
You know what? In my head, I'm already kind of sort of planning the thematic, right? So that theme would be covering. Maybe we'll cover all the drinks that we made over the pandemic, right? And we'll revisit them when we do the live at the museum. So
that would be amazing.
Look, I'm excited. I'm getting excited talking about it. I'm low key sad because this brings us to the end of our segment.
I know. It's always too short. It's always too.
I'm like, we need our own little thing, right?
Right.
I agree. So with that, thank you for always being so gracious and gracing us with your presence and sharing with us a beautiful cocktail. Again, for those who may not be aware, Drinks with Danny is a series that Danny has outside of the Newark Museum of Art. And if you're looking for a space to check in to get more delicious cocktail recipes like this one, make sure you follow her on Instagram. Can you share with them really quickly your IG?
Yes, it's my name, Danielle Pierman. Danielle, Danielle, just the regular way. The Pierman is like the fruit pear, PEAR, man, MAN _. That is me. Come check me out. Look at my drinks. Definitely send me DMs. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. I love hearing from people and hearing like what you've made and seeing pictures and all that good stuff. So definitely check it out. And I always love doing this with you every single month. So let's keep it going.
And for those watching, these recipes that we create, or I should say that Danny creates here on our show, they live on our Instagram timeline. So if you want to know how to make this cocktail, you can always come right back here to the Newark Museum of Art and look it up. It'll be on our IGTV stories, and then you can reshare that. We also reshare or repost this on all of our networks. So normally 2 to 3 weeks after we air on Instagram, we also share this on our Facebook, our YouTube. We are on Twitter. So you can find Drinks with Danny pretty much everywhere, which is kind of cool. As this partnership has been a great collaboration, and we are looking forward to doing so many more. So thank you, Danny. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of that cocktail. I'm going to bring on my next guest. So if you love fashion and you're all about Black history, we're going to be tapping into both. My next guest, as I said earlier, is Aaron R. Tucker. He is a wardrobe stylist and costume designer. And he is going to be speaking from the lens of working in the industry and what that's like for people of color, and what are his views and takes on some of the advancements of people of color in the fashion industry. So
I love that. Let me go so he can get in here. Let me get out of here so he can start. I'll see you guys.
Well, all right, I'll see you later. Boo.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We're going to delve into some topics on Black history, delve into some topics in regards to the fashion industry, and also delve into, hey, what's going on, sir?
Good. What's going on?
I'm good. How has your Friday been thus far?
It's been a good Friday. I started my day out perfect. I went to the nursery.
Okay.
Got some plants, got some groceries, came back, worked.
I mean, it is Super Bowl, so to have those groceries on deck, because I don't think we'll be doing Super Bowl parties, air quotes, as we would, typically do. So to be able to like whip it up and do it at the house, I think is a really, really good look.
I'm gonna just say it's Sunday. It's Sunday. I want to cook for Sunday.
Respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully. Right.
I'm so here for it. So first and foremost, again, thank you for being a part of this. We are so appreciative to have you joining us. And I just want to quickly just run through your bio really quickly for those who may not be familiar with you. And then we'll just jump right in. So for those who are joining us and may not be familiar with Mr. Aaron R. Tucker, Mr. Aaron R. Tucker is a celebrity wardrobe stylist and costume designer with credits spanning television, commercial, and editorial. Tucker's art is driven by thoughtful storytelling and inspired by personal style, nature, and travel. All right. I also, since it's Black History Month, right? I want to focus our artful conversation today around the advancement of people of color in and around the fashion industry. I also wanted to explore the fashion industry from your lens, being a man who happens to be of color, right? The highs, the lows, and maybe even some of the advantages of being a minority or disadvantages of being a minority in a very exclusive realm of creativity. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump right in and dig into these questions. I'm gonna kick it off with probably the most obvious question. If we're talking about Black History Month, we're talking about advancements of people of color. Let's just kick it off with the number one question. So on the advancements of people of color, what are your thoughts now that we finally have a woman of color to hold the office of vice president?
We need it. I mean, just for the simple fact of representation, we need it.
Yeah.
It needs to be seen. A woman of color especially, but then her specifically, you know what I mean? Like, she is a Black woman. She's well aware of what the climate of the country's been, even prior to the last administration. So her coming in, her voice is definitely needed. And then on top of that, you know, she's woke enough that she and our president know who got them in those positions.
Ooh.
So I'm excited to see what she's going to do with it.
And that's the
A
point
lot, a lot of expectations. You know,
Yeah,
I feel like she'll live up to them.
and that's the point thing you brought up about the part of her being aware, right? I think being a woman who has pledged a sorority that is endowed in the history of people.
And in HBCU, you know?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
shout out to Norfolk State University, the one I graduated from.
Shout out NCCU.
And also shout out Hampton University, which is where I worked for a few years before I traveled up to Jersey. So HBC, you know, let's just show a little round of applause for all
of them.
They're doing magical things. They've been doing it. It's about time the world finally sees. But I do agree with you on that, and that part plays a big role when you're holding a political office, because you are not so far removed from from which you came, being and attending schools that placate or that speak to the things that matter the most to you. So with that, do you feel that this is a sign of progress, or do you feel that there's more work to be done?
Oh no, it's always going to be more work. More work needs to be done, absolutely. But like I said, I feel like this is the start that we need, especially on the heels of what we've been dealing with for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. I feel like she's well aware of that as well. So, but again, I'm going to lift her up and lift her name up and my expectations as well. And I'm pretty sure that they'll all be met. So, they're in there. It's about to be a month. Let's get to it.
I'm here for it.
Let's see this progress.
And let's keep it moving. So
let's keep it moving.
Speaking of moving and moving right along, you worked with some pretty iconic individuals yourself. Through your career, for example, you've worked with the cast of Grace, a show that was so amazing that they actually brought it back to TV after having multiple years of success. And they were able to repeat that success for a few runs as well. Coming back, what was your experience like working on working with one of TV's most iconic characters, such as the Will and Grace show?
I mean, it was dope. When I got the call, actually, I was super excited. But when Will and Grace was airing originally, I was kind of young to get into it, but I knew what the premise of the show was. And then I actually started catching it in syndication, like in college.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious, but it touched on relevant issues. So with the shoot with them, I styled the cast, but I was also able to chop it up with the creators of the show. So like we shot this cover in like 2017, right before the reboot started. So just to see where they were at, where we were all at that time, you know what I mean? We were a year into our president at the time. And then even working with somebody like Deborah Messing, who's been very vocal on just everything as far as what's happening and inequities and inequalities in the world. So just being able to tap in and connect with them on that level, on a personal level, and my gift back to them, I guess, for what they've given the culture over all these years was, my style and my ability to kind of, give them that touch.
I love the fact that you said what they've given to the culture, because you're absolutely correct. When we think about that show, it was very progressive, right? And they covered a vast amount of topics, and they were very responsible for pushing the culture forward. And train of thought of pushing the culture forward. We have right now with mega musicians turned fashion leaders or fashion icons, right? We have Rihanna, who we think about Rihanna, who has not only made it more equitable for people of color, but also for people of different genders, body types, and physical aesthetics. What are your thoughts on the progressive movements in the fashion world as of late?
Speaking to Rihanna though, that just pretty much solidifies like her as a boss, as a businesswoman, and just is this real girl. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? She entered that. We know her from her music.
yeah,
So her fans are all of these different beautiful people that she sees and she's actually tapped into.
yeah,
So not only is it smart, but it's responsible. You know what I mean? You know these people exist.
yeah,
So you let them see themselves. You let them
yeah,
know that you see them. You know, so Rihanna is doing exactly what she should do. Even when she first started with Fenty Beauty
yeah,
and the palette that existed, you know, was insane. Like
yeah,
every color skin was
yeah,
covered, you know, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've been on a set. Actually, I was talking to a model friend of mine earlier today. He posted something to a story. Another one of his friends was on a set and they couldn't cut his hair or shape him up or do anything. And we're talking about 2021.
yeah,
And the barber could not do his hair, but I've seen that perfectly. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like a million times I've been on sets where I may have to send an assistant out because the makeup artist didn't have a right shade or something.
yeah,
You know, like that's not my job, but at the end of the day, it is my job to make sure that the model that I'm going to be spending all this time with is comfortable and feels their best.
mhm,
And, you know, like Rihanna covered all the bases with that one. But
absolutely.
even with the men's skincare, you know, like let people know the importance of self care, like how good you feel looking good. So
Yeah,
shout out to Rihanna. I mean, on everything that she's doing, but especially like as huge as the Fenty clothing line is and the makeup line and, you know, who was under and all that stuff. So Rihanna is just doing exactly what I would expect Rihanna to do.
and you got to respect the hustle. You got to respect the genius of understanding what it is to not be seen. So she has a platform, and she's making sure that those who maybe felt like her at one point invisible, she's making sure they're visible. So we definitely
Right.
got to support Rihanna. We have a question from one of our viewers in the chat. So, who would you love to dress if you had the opportunity? So this is one of those fireball questions they do it in the chat. I'm gonna throw it at you.
Hmm. Naomi Campbell. I want to dress
Oh,
Naomi. I want to dress Hov, Jay Z.
nice.
I mean, just the people I've looked up to that have inspired me. I would love to be able to shoot stuff back and forth with them, man.
You
Tap in with them.
tier, top tier. I mean, Naomi Campbell, top tier. Oh, Jay Z, top tier. So definitely, I would co-sign. Like, I would just love to meet them. Like, much less.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, even more so to just be able to like really get working. You know, like
Yeah,
I love what I do, and I love like working with other artists, and especially somebody like Naomi that's like been
yeah,
a muse for all these designers. Like had this amazing career in the industry. Actually,
yeah,
has been an advocate for equality in the industry. Like
yeah,
that's what I'm
yeah.
all about. Yeah, and I mean, I work with Tyra, I work with Iman. Like that's a trinity for me. So
Which I'm
I feel like
glad
I
you
need
brought.
to get
I want to be
Naomi up
big
there.
to that a little later, talking about your connection to Naomi. I mean, Naomi. Talking to your connection to Tyra, talking to your connection to Iman. We're going to tackle that a little later. But before we do, and while we're still on the topic of Rihanna, right? So
Mhm.
was garnered, has garnered, I should say, a lot of success for this choice of being inclusive, right? However, in contrast, you have brands like Victoria's Secrets who kind of do the same thing, right? Who refuse to change and stand behind their, and they don't want to change and they want to stand behind their current branding model. What are your thoughts when it comes to brands like this in ready to wear markets? Do you think this is failed? Do you think they're missing the mark?
I mean, it was a couple of years ago that we found out that Victoria's Secret was using prison label to produce products. So I'm not looking towards them to do anything progressive nor ethical. You know,
Yeah,
whatever your stance is and whatever's been working for y'all, keep doing it. But at the
yeah,
end of the day, like as especially as social media and the way that information is shared nowadays, that's on the consumer to decide how you're going to spend your money and who you're going
yeah.
to go to. You know what I mean? But Victoria's Secret, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't be on anybody's list. If they want to stick to what they've been doing all these years, let them do it.
Yeah, and I think hit on a
Go get that Fenty lingerie.
he's like, get that. not only lingerie but skincare. As you said, she totally revamped the idea of self care, and have so many entry points for those who may not be into this, but they may be into this. To opening up not only people of color by showing representation, but showing other, as they said, the able, as they said, not the able body she had walking in the show to different body types that she had in the show.
Right.
All of that's a win. So moving forward, I want to talk a little bit. I want to shift the conversation. So we're talking about equity, right, and equitability within brands. We know that there are a lot of let me rephrase this. There are a lot of top tier fashion brands that continue to run into issues or continue to run into problems. We think about some of our when we think about some of our top tier brands like Lux Fashion or things from the Lux Fashion world, equality and equity is something that they're still kind of going through very public growing pains with. Certain brands, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of brands. When we think about Chanel, Dior, Givenchy, brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton, why do you think they keep hitting this roadblock where they're still struggling to sort of like, if you look every so many months, they're having to release a press statement to retract something they did or said? Why do you think that's a constant issue?
Because they don't care. Because, I mean, you would fix it and even if it happens within your organization, like you are linear with all these other brands. All those brands that you said are on the same level. So you didn't learn from what you did last year and what they came on your heels and did now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's pretty much believe half of what you see, none of what you hear. Because every time you turn around, it's, oh yeah, like we shouldn't have done this. It was pretty much like a misstep on our part, but then you turn right around and you do something else. You know, but again, like going back to what I said in the last comment, as quick as social media is, and like shout out to Black Twitter, all of it. Shout out to Diet Prada, you know, so all of this stuff, the light's being shed on it. You know what I mean? So for me, the changes that you say that you're actually enacting, if they're not structural, they don't make any sense. I don't care how many Black people that you want to put in your posts, on your social media posts, who you're putting on the runway now, which was all done because of pressure.
Yeah.
If you don't have somebody in a position that's calling out all of these missteps as they happen before they even take place, then you don't care to change.
Yeah. So, I mean, point in our chat, there's a very interesting question that I want to bring. So again, more of a fireball around because we weren't prepared for this question, but I do think it's essential. So Pretty wants to know, why do you think Black brands are unable to be seen on the same level as some of the luxury brands that I just mentioned? Why do you think that's a struggle for brands of people of color?
Shut up and money. You know, it takes money to market and to get that PR, but then also brands are shut out. I mean, look at Carl Canal. Like, we have been able to see a resurgence of that. Cross Colors, all of them, you know, will tell you the stories how these bigger companies came to them to buy them out, essentially. And when they refused, they were shut out. But you are seeing a lot of dope Black designers now. And you can't even really have the conversation without mentioning Kirby and Pierre Moss, because at one point he was about to be shut out. After one of his shows. You know, and he's been able to come back, and he's still been super unapologetic with everything that he does. He's forming initiatives to actually bring Black designers to the forefront. But at the end of the day, even with that, like, we got to rely on ourselves. And we need to know exactly who we're selling these items to and how to reach our market and reach our audience. Our business models have to be strong. Our quality has to be on point. But for me, like, Black people of color, women, like anybody that's unable to tap into the market as easily as it is for these bigger brands and people that have been ignored and shut out. I feel like my job as a stylist is to highlight them. You know what I mean? I want to know what's next. I want to know anything that hits before what we've seen 100 times. You know what I mean? Like, and nothing new. And then at the same time, like, not only have we seen it, but we've seen it from brands that continue to disregard and disrespect us.
And I'm glad you of stylists being innovative, and that's sort of what your gift is to the world, being innovative and looking at fashion through a non-traditional lens. There is a question in our chat, and I'm gonna just tackle it again because it's there, from Lamar. Lamar wants to know, what advice or Lamore, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. What advice do you have for aspiring fashion stylists, so those who aspire to do what you do? What advice might you give to
Uh, this sounds terrible,
them?
but you need to be willing to work for free.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should work for free. I'm saying willing.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because I did it. You know what I mean? I feel like the knowledge that you gain by interning and assistant is so valuable. Like the game is completely different from when I came in. You know,
Yeah.
like you had to know somebody to be able to get in and to actually start working. Now you do have different platforms where you can, I guess, showcase your style or like reach out directly to potential clients.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you find you need to learn. Like it's a business more than anything. You know, like yeah, you can dress, you have a good style, but like, are you good with your money? Are you good with sticking up for yourself and making sure you're getting paid exactly what you're supposed to be getting paid? You know what I mean? Even the connections that you need as far as accessing clothes and showrooms.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you got great style, but are you going to shop?
Yeah.
Style for the rest of your life? You gonna
And-
buy and return? You gonna steal? You dressing out of your closet? Like, you need to have these connections and actually do the groundwork in order to get into it. But I mean, find somebody that you like, a stylist or a costume designer, whoever, and reach out to them. Let them know that you have the interest in working, and just be willing to admit that you need to learn and like you're down to pay your dues and like get dirty.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point you brought up. Like having access to showrooms, that's something that if you have not been to fashion school or a trade school or a university that teaches you these things, where you have the opportunity to intern, because you don't need a degree. Let's be clear to be able to be a stylist. However, when you don't, when that's not in the forefront of your thoughts, you've seen stylists dress people, but not maybe aware of how that business works. You do need to get those connections, and you do like that's how those celebrities are able to wear those top-notch designers and not necessarily pay, because it's a trade-off, right? So understanding the business and understanding how that all works. And speaking of trade-offs, on this topic, I'm going to transition us to my question about Vogue Magazine, right? So I'm vice president at the top of this, right? Trade-offs. And we're talking about one of the fashion magazines that continues to also sort of stump its foot repeatedly on certain things when it comes to people of color. So Vogue Magazine, which is overseen by Anna Wintour, right, has come under fire quite a few times for its lack of representation and or lack of equity in regards to the communities of people of color. What are your thoughts in regards to mainstream fashion media publications such as this? What would be your 2 cents you would offer?
You went out at the last part of your question. You said, what would be my 2 cents?
Yeah, what would be your 2 cents in regards to publications like this, mainstream fashion publications like this, that keep hitting that wall because of bad choices, where you can't tell if it's intentional or unintentional?
It's intentional. I mean, it was it was confirmed to be intentional, pretty much. Anna Wintour said it. We saw what happened. I mean, look, I'm gonna speak of it from an artist standpoint instead of fashion. So Vogue, Bon Appetit, all fall under, and several other publications all fall under the umbrella of Condé Nast.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? And like, it hit the fan a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So Anna Wintour had to make a statement. She came out and said, yeah, there was more she could have done for people of color in her role as the editor-in-chief of Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know that, nothing new. But then you go as far as to see exactly why this stuff is perpetuated in the way that it is, like, because people are being shut out. The editor-in-chief of Bon Appetit, first of all, we see him in brownface at a Halloween party. You hear the stories of all these other chefs. And again, like, this is where the shutout comes in. This is where the gaslight and all that comes in. Where in the fashion industry, you really try not to speak too much if you really work in it. So you don't say anything. But for me, even before quarantine, like, my go-to at the end of the day was coming home and watching Bon Appetit, thinking of something I could cook later on. I love the chefs. So it really hurt to find out that a lot of these people were being exploited in the way what they were. Like, Shola was one of my favorites. I remember, like, it even clicked to me one point, like, why are they always asking this girl? Like, they always bring her from what she's doing to do something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For them. So to even see it in that visible, they don't want to change. They don't have to. Nobody is holding them accountable to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for us and the people that actually want to consume it, like look elsewhere. Look elsewhere. Even I was really bothered by the Vogue challenge that happened early on in social media, where people were like, "Yeah, let's put ourselves on the cover of Vogue because we've been shut out." If you are continuously being shut out by the same people, go where you're welcome and where you're loved, and where you're celebrated.
Yeah.
So I really I don't even look at especially American fashion magazines anymore. Like it's like looking through advertisements at this point, and that's really all it is. Like they would even use the argument that you don't see black models, you don't see black designers, because they don't sell, and that's BS. That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, Italian Vogue. Look at how many issues that the all-black issue of Italian Vogue sold. That was the only issue in the history of that magazine that had to go into reprint. So just anything, but at the end of the day, like sell whatever dream you want, but we just need to be smarter on what we consume and stop buying into it. And you know, like you are saying, like I know for a fact that I could have done more to help the careers of black.
And the power is in the dollar. I mean, you said earlier that the mighty dollar bill dictates how some of these businesses move, and if we stop investing or putting our money behind some of these brands that don't reflect them, that will change the narrative. That will force the conversation to shift. And I'm glad you brought up Condé Nast, because that leads me into my next question. In regards to Condé Nast, British Vogue is also under the same moniker, right? And a few years ago, their first ever editor-in-chief, Edward Inningfield, back in 2017. Why do you
Who just
feel
took over all European publications for Vogue?
Yeah. Why do you feel America is always playing catch up when it comes to creating more equitable spaces for people of color? Yo, when they say silence.
Racism. I mean, what is more American than racism? What is more American than that?
Yeah.
You know? And again, like zero accountability coupled with that, like you aren't going to see the changes.
Yeah.
So, you know, in Europe, and even like to piggyback right back off of what I said with Italian Vogue, like Franca Sozzani, God rest her soul, but when she did it, all of the pushback, like this isn't going to sell. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But again, like men lie, women lie, numbers do not lie.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie. But I mean, America's so behind on everything, on all of it. And again, like with that being said too, like who really creates the culture that is American culture that is also adopted throughout the world? Who creates that culture? How can you highlight it? How can we expect them to highlight it?
You hit on a very interesting point. And even with Edward, even he's not immune, right? So sadly, even with Edward Inningfield being the boss and editor-in-chief of British Vogue, that didn't keep him from being, or from experiencing, I should say, the same challenges that all people of color face, which is being racially profiled. For those who in our chat who may be aware, who may not be aware, recently he got racially profiled by one of the security guards at the magazine's office in London, and was told by the guard to use the loading bay to enter into work. Of course, the publication fired the guard swiftly, but why do you think this is a problem that we see played out over and over again? Where things, what things do you think companies can do, or people can do to change this behavior? We keep seeing this happen, no matter whether you're near or abroad. It's a profiling, racially profiling. What do you think they can do to sort of shift?
It's happened to me. It happened to me all the time. All the time. One of the main instances, I was got really friendly with a huge contemporary designer. You know, we're still cool, but like any department store you walk in, her stuff is on the rack. She's got stores all around the world. And we got friendly around this time through her publicist. And I was working on a job, super busy, went into her office, and you don't have to sign in to go to their offices in this particular building. Like you get up, and then once you get to the floor, you need to get buzzed in. So I'm preoccupied, not paying attention, like checking emails, worried about my assistant out front, whether or not she's gonna have to circle around the block, knowing I'm gonna be upstairs for a minute. And the security guard is asking me where I'm going. Again, I'm in my phone, not really locked in with him. And I'm like, I'm going upstairs to see such and such. He's like, okay, are you picking up? I'm like, yeah, I'll be getting stuff. And he was like, okay, you need to take the loading elevator. In my mind, I already was going to, because
Yeah.
their office was one of the few that the loading elevator opened directly in their showroom. So if I'm pushing a rolling rack down, I need to do this. It's convenient.
Yeah.
But if I have nothing on me but a tote bag and a phone,
Yeah.
I'm taking this elevator right here.
Yeah.
So, you know, like once I was president, I realized like what he was actually giving me. I
Yeah.
raised hell. And that's
Yeah.
that's the point that everybody needs to do. Like, you need to raise hell. First of all,
Yeah.
these corporations know who you're hiring and stop hiring racist people.
Yeah.
First of all. And other than that, if it happens to you, like if you're in that situation, you need to raise hell, to the point where I could have gone upstairs and talked to her and talked to the office manager and then had them address it. I called upstairs and was like, you need to come downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, you need to send the office manager downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, this has to be handled now. I need to see how it's going to be handled. So something like that, you know what I mean? Like, people are always going to try to mistreat you, especially somebody that's looking down on you. So you cut that from the ankles up. You know what I mean? You don't even you don't give it any life. You cannot allow that. You know what I mean? And like, I'm such a sensitive person in like certain aspects. Like, oh, I don't really want to do too much because this is somebody's job. You don't need to work. You don't need to work around people if that's how you're treating people.
Yeah.
You know, like.
So, and since we're on the topic of still, high fashion, working with high fashion publications, I want to, because I see our time is sort of ticking away, I do want to do a couple of questions in regards to Iman, because you have the opportunity to work with this amazing beauty. I'm going to pull her image up really quickly. For those who may or may not be familiar, you got the opportunity to work with supermodel, right? Iman. And I want to know from you, what was it like, or what was your experience like working with one of Vogue's and Harper Bazaar's most favorite sought-after model of color during the height of her career in the 70s and the 80s? What was that experience like working with her?
Surreal. I'd never met her before, you know what I mean? Of course, loved her, loved her husband. It was something that I wanted because I had a friend that did her hair, a friend that did her makeup. So I was like, damn, I want to work with Iman. Like, and that was really like, it's something that's kind of like, you hear it so much nowadays, but that was something that came from like really manifesting. Like, I wanted to work with Iman so bad, and it happened. And I, at the time, had started freelancing maybe like 4 months prior. I think like November the year prior, I started working with Iman in February 2013. So I had taken a break from like everything because I was really in TV more than anything, and was like, I want to get my book together, I want to do this, I want to do that. So Fashion Week was coming up around the time, and I had more invites than I've ever had, and was like, I'm just gonna focus on Fashion Week and getting out here and being seen and like connecting with people, whatever. And that morning, before I even like was fully awake, I got an email talking about a shoot. Would I be interested? I talked to the woman that was coordinating everything. Like, we were able to coordinate like specifics, get everything all set. And she said to me was, "Oh, Iman is very hands-on, so she'll probably reach out to you. She's gonna want to talk to you." I'm like, all right, bet. Like, I love that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely want to hear what you're thinking, what your input is, all that. I went to take a shower. I had 2 missed calls from a number that wasn't saved on my phone. And it was Iman.
Oh, wow.
We talked on the phone immediately, and she's like, "Are you sure we never met?" Like, when I'm like, 1,000%, lady. 1,000,000%, we have never met. But she was just so cool and like open. Definitely kept me on my toes, but it was good. It was a wonderful working relationship. Like, she was very appreciative, and again, like, just another boss, knew exactly what she wanted. But yeah, like, I'm super thankful for that. And again, like, that, other than doing the work that I do and like working well, and being passionate about it, like, I really did not have anything to do with working with her directly. I didn't know her. I never sent my portfolio to her or team or any of that.
And I think that's an important thing that we're talking about her how iconic she is, right? Because even Iman, she also faced adversity. She quickly rose to fame, right?
Mhm.
In world, recounting, I was reading an interview of hers that her first ever press conference, due to the exaggerated tales about her, Iman couldn't believe that Americans were so gullible to believe that she was found in the jungle, and she
Right.
was even more insulted that the American press thought she couldn't speak English, when in fact she could speak English and 5 other languages. So I mean, we just got to really like big up, the fact that
Mhm.
Iman, despite all of that, she carried it in grace, and we look at who and what she's accomplished in this, and to this date, and how she's still setting trends, right? Um, I want to transition because we're talking about supermodels, right? And if we're talking about supermodels, you got the opportunity to work for another iconic supermodel, but in a slightly different capacity. So you got to work for Tyra Banks, for the opportunity to work on the Tyra Banks show, I should say. What was
Mhm.
that experience like, working under a woman of color who had been noted for instilling diversity and creating equitable spaces in fashion and TV, way before it became a trendy thing to do? How was your experience working with in that regards?
That experience ruined me. Like no other TV show that I've worked on
Yeah.
has lived up to that.
Wow.
Like our team was so close knit and so tight. And actually, I still work with the man that hired me on that show, on another show out here.
Yeah.
But we luckily, like, it's that team that I'm on now is a second close, second two. But
Yeah.
Tyra, like, everybody was so passionate, everybody was so smart, everybody worked so hard. And I mean, even looking at the picture, like, that's our cast and crew. Like, it's so many women. We had so many amazing female producers. Tyra's actual glam squad was amazing. Like, shout out to Oscar and Valente and Yanis and Tina. And
That's just
even Tina, Vietnamese woman from Orange County out here, I tip my hat to her and like thank her so much, because all the aspects of fashion that I've been able to work in, I started in celebrity, did editorial, was interning at a magazine, went into television for like the longest run up until now. And then, I'm back doing a lot of costume work and TV, but a lot of celebrity now. Tina knew the importance of, because, for her, it wasn't just TV. Like,
yeah.
for her, she
Yeah.
was still a celebrity stylist.
Yeah.
So, but Tina knew the importance of taking me with her on all of her market appointments at the time, and like just really pushing for me to make these connections. And
Yeah.
like, she knew I worked hard, she knew I had good style, but like I really didn't have an editorial background. But like, she always really spoke life into my name. So that whole team, I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative of. Like, I love them to death. And
Yeah.
again, like once I got into the position where I was able to like refer people for jobs, like I always do. But
Yeah.
shout out to that whole staff. I love y'all.
And shout out to Valente. That's how I actually
Okay.
do. So
Good.
again, working in this fashion world, right, is really about networking, especially when you're part of our
Mhm.
dark skin toned collective. So definitely shout out to Valente, because he's opened a few doors. He was probably my first invitation into Fashion Week. So definitely shout out to our peers who make our spaces more equitable for us. And with that, I want to sort of switch up the conversation. So we touched on Iman, but I also want to just quickly highlight the fact that you got to work for one of the most prolific voices um, uh, in our culture. When we think about African Americans and people of color, sorry, people of color who have lots of culture, let's put it like that. You got to work for him and work for his show. What was that experience like, working with this iconic figure? And what was it like also meeting Nipsey Hussle? Because you were here present when this all happened and this took place.
Yeah, I mean, I have been a fan of Dr. Dyson for so many years, and just the way that he thinks, and he's no holds barred with everything. And then to be able to work with him and get that exact same energy
Yeah.
was amazing. So I really appreciated that. And then just the doors and the opportunities that I had from that. Like, he and I got close working together, but
Yeah.
specifically like meeting Nipsey, meeting Fat Joe was like one of the best things too. Just having real conversations with real people.
Yeah.
And Victory Lap had just dropped like a couple of months before I met him.
Yeah.
And like just being able to talk to him about what everything that he embodied and like what he actually lived
Yeah.
was an amazing experience.
I, I'm,
God rest his soul, man.
yeah. He was such an iconic figure, like, and like, someone who was able to take two sides um of the culture and sort of bring them together. And definitely gotta again, R.I.P. Nipsey. Like he was a very, very, very thoughtful individual who knew what it would take to see his fellow peers come from where he came from to be able to move the pendulum forward. So and he represented that. So definitely,
He did it. Yeah. He lived everything he spoke. We need more people like that.
I want to close for narrowing and end our time, which it feels like it went by so quick, right? I want to close out with the idea we're talking about amplifying voices and voices of people of color. Originally, or I should say, on that topic, you have the opportunity to work on a music video of a young Keteron Bryant. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may not be familiar, and I'll pull them up for those who may not be familiar. But you got the opportunity to work with Keteron Bryant, who is the amazing voice behind the song "I Just Want to Live," inspired by the deaths of George Floyd and so others who've died at the hands of police brutality. What does that make you feel seeing the next generation stepping up to use their talents to push the bar forward for a more equitable America? How does that trigger you, or not necessarily trigger you, but move you? How does that move you?
I mean, we need it. When I actually got called to work with Kedron, it was for like press and assets. And we didn't know that he was going to be shooting a video like a couple of days after that. And this was right when everything started to reopen in California. So I was really cautious with the work that I was taking. But, Kedron spoke for all of us in that viral clip that he had. And I think it was just a little more profound and impactful because you're seeing it from then he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
The song is "I Just Want to Live, God Protect Me." Like at the end of the day, we've been screaming that forever. You know what I mean? So the fact that a 12-year-old is coming into the game or just getting notoriety off of that, you know. So I really was happy to be able to contribute to something again that impacted the culture and was like so relevant at this time. I mean, that's the dream of any artist. You know what I mean? The work that you create, you wanted to speak to the times that you're actually living in. So I'm happy to have contributed to Kedron's career early on, especially to the visuals for that song.
Yeah, I mean, and Kedron ended up getting a recording contract based off of that viral, and has since. So, speaking to what you said earlier, for those who have questions, that how do you become a stylist and become a noted stylist? As Aaron spoke to earlier, there's so many platforms you can use to raise your visibility that was not accessible when me and Aaron were coming up. That now, out there at your fingertips. Make the best use of those spaces, and make the best use of your talents and showcasing your talent and being selective, like Aaron said, picking projects that are going to represent who you are and speak to what it is you want to do in that industry. So we're winding down. Time has sort of come to an end. I see comments, so proud to be an HBCU alum with, exactly, agreed. I would have to ditto.
What up, brother?
So they're saying they're so proud to be an HBCU alum with you representing HBCU. And as I said, me being a fellow HBCU graduate as well, this is a really, really amazing, thing to be a part of this conversation, and to be able to share the spotlight with you. So with that,
thank y'all for having me there.
No, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. For those who may want to follow you, let's highlight your Instagram really quickly. So those who may be interested in following you, following your career and your trajectory, drop your IG handle for them really quickly.
And my Instagram is Art, my initials, ART. And this is probably relating to the time that I've always lived in. But it's Art is on one, because I stay on one. I'm always fighting for what's right, for my people, for what's good for me. So it's not Artisan one, it's Art is on one.
And originally you're from the DMV, right? Yes. Yeah, so like, I remember that being a common thread. So let's shout out DMV as well, being a native.
Shout out all the DMV.
So, yeah, we got
Shouting out DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I'm shouting out North Carolina. That's where my HBCU is.
yes.
I'm shouting out the Black people I never see in California because I know y'all exist. I'm shouting out everything. Like everywhere that I've ever lived is actually poured into me. Like we met in New York. Like I miss Brooklyn so much. But yeah, like shout out all that. Shout out everywhere that's actually helped me grow and like made me into the man that I am.
And the interesting part is I'm surprised we wouldn't have met prior to, is considering you were doing Fashion Week, I was doing Fashion Week, but it just turned out that Valente was the common denominator. And ever since that first connecting with you in Brooklyn, like I said, you've always been 100% authentic, and that's why I had to have you on the show. Again, thank you for the viewers who are watching. My name is Gerald Dwayne. I am the coordinator of community engagement here at the Newark Museum of Art. So definitely check back with us. We do this show once a month. If you missed any parts of this, this will live on our Instagram. We also re-air this on our Facebook as well as our YouTube. So we hope to see you back. We kick off every episode with this cocktail. So Danny, she'll be back to do a cocktail opening us up. And then we'll talk on another, or have another segment that revolves around art and culture. So again, thank you for representing for Black History Month. Thank you for being here. Again, we want to just shout out everybody in the chat who's been positive and uplifting. Remember that positivity will take you far in life. On all that other stuff, let's be clear, you won't go far. So with that, thank you all for joining us. And until next time.
All right, Daryl. Peace.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.